You're listening to Were You Still Talking? Hey, welcome back. This is Joel Albrecht, again, as always, and today in my studio, not in my studio, on the phone, not on the phone, but on the Skype. Everyone knows this by now, due to the current situation. It's still June if you're listening a year from now. Today I have Shawn Anderson, who is a #1 ranked motivation and self-help author. He's an international keynote speaker and a results-producing people builder. He's an entrepreneur since the age of 10 when he started a business selling worms to fishermen, which is pretty awesome. Anywhere that rains, you can do that. Shawn has continued by building businesses and organizing events that make a difference in how people think. Shawn is the founder of Extra Mile America and the creator of Extra Mile Day in the United States, a day recognizing the capacity we each have to create positive change in our families, our organizations, our communities, and ourselves when we go the extra mile. He's done a number of amazing things. He's a 7-time author, which I already said, but he walks the talks. He has built a multi-million-dollar company. He's pedaled a bike 4,000 miles across the U.S., not once, but twice. He's run a 100-mile race. He's created adventures in close to 50 countries, including having walked across 7 countries. How are you doing today, Shawn? That's quite a list of accomplishments.
With humble gratitude, it is a privilege to be on Were You Still Talking?
Nice. Thank you. Thank you for giving that name a beautiful, beautiful reading. I've read this list of accomplishments, and it always amazes me. You are a bit of an extreme athlete, is what I would call it. I know you call them adventures. Your first bike ride was when you rode across the U.S. Was that before or after you walked across 7 countries?
No, it was the first big adventure I did, and I found out that, man, it was such an insightful journey into myself, and such a moment to learn how to maximize me, that marked the beginning of every single year since going on a great adventure.
Oh, that's awesome. So every year you pick an adventure and you go on, you do it. You do that.
Well, just not an adventure, but an adventure that scares the hell out of me. An adventure that usually is me just with a backpack, getting off an airplane and walking in some country and then getting back on an airplane 30 or 40 or even sometimes 50 days later. Oftentimes when I step into a country, my general rule is the only way I get across the country is in my sneakers. That's it, bottom line. I kind of know where I'm supposed to head that night. I start walking and I keep walking till I went from usually one border to another border.
That is amazing. And you answered like 3 of my questions in that question. I also love that. I always like it when people answer some of the questions, because that's what I wondered. You do it on your own with a backpack. When you rode across the country, I assume you had saddlebags. Did you camp? Did you have any kind of support? Or did you just like, I'm going to do this, doesn't matter, I'll pedal through the fear kind of thing?
Yeah, the very first time I pedaled across the country, I did have the saddlebags, but I'm not a tough dude, and I can handle the pedal, but you got to get me a shower and a bed at nighttime. So when I pedaled across the country, I always found a hotel. And when I walk across the country too, I'm never camping. I mean, I've got everything in the world on my back, everything that I need to exist on my back. And although I don't know where I'm eating in any particular day, or I don't know where I'm staying, I've never once not found a bed somewhere. Now, I have shared that bed with grasshoppers as big as your fist. I have shared that bed with 1,000 different cockroaches in the room, but man, I've always got somewhere to sleep at night.
Well, yeah, I've shared a bed with cockroaches in some of the nicest hotels in Hawaii. So it just happens. You're going to travel. Sometimes you get big, beautiful bugs. Well, that's wonderful. How many pairs of shoes do you? This is another question. I had another friend in here that had walked the Pacific Crest Trail, or a good portion of it. How many shoes did you go through when you walk for? Can you do you have one good pair of shoes? Do you take extra?
Oh, fiddlesticks! I every time that I go on a new adventure, I start off about 3 weeks before I'm to go with a brand new pair of shoes. I just get them so they're feeling comfortable, a little bit broken because I'm about to walk at least 500 miles. The most I've walked is 750 miles. That was around Shikoku, Japan. And by the time you're finished walking, those shoes, the bottoms of those soles are wearing down. I mean, you're going up and down mountains and you're sliding through gravel and dirt and you're walking through mud. I was walking through Spain one time and I got caught in the worst mountain storm ever. And I was walking across this muddy field that turned into this deep clay, and it got so wet so fast that I was literally sinking each foot up to my knee, and I was just pulling that sucker out every time. It was the slowest walk ever. So by the time you're finished with a walk, your shoes are really unwalkable again.
I would imagine. Yeah, I would imagine. And do you feel like a completely different person at the end of the walk than when you started?
Oh man, you can stand in front of the mirror and you go, "Wow, you look like a completely different person." I mean, yeah, I think Japan, again, that 48-day adventure, I lost about 16 pounds. I mean, first off, I'm a vegetarian. So when you go into a country and you're not sure where you're going to eat, oftentimes it's really tough for vegetarians to find food. I'm not a big bread eater. I'm not a big cheese eater. So yeah, you start to really lose weight. But you come back, not only physically are you changed, but you've transformed your passion, you've transformed and magnified your purpose. All of those things grow because any time in life that we push ourselves through a fire and we get to the other side and we turn around and go, "Wow, look what I just did." Not only does it give us a toughness for walking through the next fire, but before we start the next fire, we have absolute faith that we can get through it.
That's awesome. That's a big one. And for the average person, because you're a bit of I have to say you're a bit of a Superman, and I know you're very humble about it, but not everyone has the drive, and I think a lot of it is drive. I mean, I'm a musician, so I know that getting better at music is 90% practice. It's a little bit of talent and a lot of practice. It's just like walking. It's got to be a lot of mindset and a little bit of walking. Do you have advice for like the average person who maybe doesn't have that drive, like how to have that passion every day, how to achieve what they want to achieve and keep doing things really out of their comfort zone? Because that's what you're all about. It's let's move out of that comfort zone.
Yeah, well, I appreciate those kind words. Thank you, Joel, for that. But never once in my life have I even remotely come close to thinking that I wore a giant S on my back. Never once have I thought that I was a Superman. I've always thought I was a very ordinary guy, but what made me maybe slightly different was I wanted to live an extraordinary life. And I think when it starts with that. If you want to live an extraordinary life, you've got to learn to push yourself a little bit more. You've got to learn to stretch your comfort zone. You've got to be able to say, "I'm scared as hell to do this, but I'm going for it anyway." Because each time that we do that, our life turns a little bit extraordinary. We never become extraordinary, but we give ourselves opportunities and create experiences that are extraordinary.
Oh, that's a wonderful, wonderful way to put it. Yeah. And you must have moments, maybe you don't, but a lot of us do, where you have a little bit of self-doubt. You're not, maybe you're not sure about the next thing you're doing. Do you have like exercises you do to keep yourself inspired, or is there, or you just wake up inspired every day and you don't even have to think about it?
Oh man, if only life were that easy, right? If only if only we could program ourselves to the point that we woke every day and we ran 26.2 miles a marathon, then we came home and wrote half a book and wrote the world's greatest song right after that. I mean, only if life were so beautiful. No, man, I'll tell you what, any motivation, any inspiration that I play life with is something that I create every morning when I wake up because I set my intention to do so. Just like most people, I'm fully aware that I can wake up in the morning and go, oh, hell, what do I have to do today? But that's where it all starts. I don't let my brain start running me. I start to run my brain. So there's 3 questions that I will start every day with. Those 3 questions are what help change my tone. Question number 1, hey, man, what are you excited about today? So I think about it. Yeah, okay. What am I excited about today? Forget all the things I got to do. Forget all the things that are draining my energy. What one thing? What one thing, dude, are you excited about today? Question 1. Question 2, who can I take a moment and just encourage today? Who needs a lift? Who can I empower? Who can I share something with that helps maybe change their day? Who can I encourage? Question number 3. Okay. A lot of things that you wish were different about your life, but what's that one thing that you're grateful for today, man? What are you grateful for? So if I start my day with, what am I excited about? Who can I encourage? What am I grateful for? All of a sudden, what I've started to do is reprogram the computer that sits on my shoulders. And if I start to become the programmer of the computer rather than letting the program tell me what I'm supposed to do, I've set my day from the very beginning.
That is awesome. That's a really good way to start a day. I think that's great advice. Great tools, really, for everyone. I mean, there are days that I am thinking that way. There are days that I don't quite make it, but that's a really good way to put things. Who can I inspire today leads me to, you are an inspirational speaker. And where along, I mean, you've written 7 books, you've walked 7 countries, you've ridden across the country twice. At what point did you start saying, I really want to get out there and inspire others? I want to start speaking, and inspire perhaps the next generation or my generation, whatever it is.
One of the great thoughts that I carry with me practically every single day is that life is short, Joel. Life is so damn ass short. If you take where you are now, it's so easy for you to think back 10 years or 15 years, go back to high school. So easy. It all went so fast. One day we wake up and we're the same age as our parents. One day we wake up, we're the same age as our grandparents, and we go, where did it go? What happened? So in realizing that life is short every day, it takes the sting out of risk. It takes the sting out of not going for it. And then when you start going for it enough in life and you go, wow, look what was created. Look how inspired I feel. Look how passionate and purposeful these changes that I'm creating are. You can't help but want to share that with other people. You never have the power to change another person's heart or mind or soul, but what we do have the ability to do, what you have the ability to do, what I have the ability to do, what a listener has the ability to do is to plant seeds and to water seeds. And if you've got something great that's happening in your life, you should be doing your best of planting and watering those same feelings and thoughts in other people. And I think that's how we make a difference in life. It's not that we live life selfishly, we live life selflessly. When we start to maybe give another person an idea of what they can do to go where they want to go.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. That's really encouraging words. That's very uplifting, and it's harder than people think. I think, at least it is for me. We need more people doing it.
If you think it, Joel, if you think it's harder, it becomes harder. That I've learned that too. I mean, I've got to watch my own self-talk. If I think I'm about to write a book and it's the hardest book I've ever written in my life, I can assure you I've just created the hardest book I've ever had to write in my life. So I make sure I catch myself before I think the things that start to sabotage me. If I start to say, God, that is so hard. I can't get up that mountain. I can't walk across that country. I go, what the heck are you talking about, dude? You don't have to do it all at once. Just do it your best today. Walk around the block, walk a mile, walk 3 miles, turn it into 5 miles. Before I know it, I've just done 10. So I take baby steps. You can't get to Z in the alphabet unless you go through the 25 letters that preceded it. Then that's how I get through life. I set a major goal and I work it backwards. That's where I want to go. I know I'm not getting there today, but I know that on step 1, I can get to there. And that goal has 23 steps to get there. and I just have to get to one a day, and that's all I'm thinking about. I'm not even thinking about number two. I first really realized that when I pedaled the bike across the country the first time. I was so tired. I was in Salt Lake City, Utah. I was at a truck stop. My legs were jello. I got off out and I was sitting there with a bunch of truckers. Man, they had their big semi rigs out there. I had my cool bike. Here I am on the inside, and I see a big truck map on the inside of this cafe, this truck stop, and I go, "Oh, cool. Let's go see where we are." So I go to the left side of this huge picture, this map of the United States, and I put my finger at San Francisco right there. That's where I dipped my back tire in the Pacific Ocean. Man, let's see where I am. I'm going across oh my God, Utah's right there. Look how much further I got to go. Right there, that was such a defeating thought that I had, that I was so tired, so wiped out, so drained, and I had only pedaled from San Francisco to Utah, and I had way more to go. That's when I realized I never keep my eye on where I have to eventually go, where I want to go. I just keep my eye on my next step, my next mile. That's it.
Wow, that totally makes sense. That's a really good one, because so I'm sure that many of us get stuck in that that end game. Well, I want to be here, and I know I can say this by personal experience with starting a podcast. I didn't really know what was going to happen, but I'm getting at the point where, okay, I want to grow this podcast, but I want it to be this big, and it actually works for me. The way to grow the podcast is to do another one. That's how
That's right.
One more
That's
podcast, keep getting guests like yourself, book another person that's going to inspire other people, or that's going to everyone has a story. So I love that. I love that philosophy. And I was curious, writing 7 books, I like to ask people this question. How do you write? Like, do you have a time every day to write? You set a goal, I'm going to write this much a day? Or are you inspired in the middle of the night, or do you write on bike rides and walks across countries? Do you have a way that you can write still? How does that? What's your process?
Joel, I'd love to answer that question, but before I do, is it okay that you inspired something? I thought back on something you had said before. I just want to go to that really quickly. You said something profound about the end game, that people they start looking at the end game too much. I'll tell you what, the end game is what will kill you. If you look at the end game, that's where you will defeat yourself. I don't look at the end game. I look at the today game. It's always today. What do I need to accomplish today? What do I want to do today? Because if I live enough today's really, really well, the end game takes care of itself. Now to your question. I believe that the life worth living is the life worth recording. The life worth recording is the life worth writing about every single day. I believe that everybody should be a journaler, not only to give themselves a chance later in life to go back and really reflect and think about what they did and how they lived, but also to give themselves a chance to find their deepest thoughts, passions, and really think about it, to really get to know themselves, to become aware. Because when we become more aware of ourselves, we become more aware of our self-defeating thoughts and what's holding us back. When we become aware of ourselves, we become aware of what we love and what we should be creating more of in our life. We find that by putting pen to paper and writing, by putting fingers on a keyboard and typing. I write every single day. I've been writing every single day for over 10 years. If I'm walking across the country, the heaviest thing that I'm carrying in my backpack is my Apple MacBook Air computer, man. That battery weighs a ton, because I never let a day go by that I am not writing in that journal. Then all of a sudden, if you choose to write a book later, writing is a natural part of you. Throwing the words on paper is a natural part of you. Your head, your heart, they all connect and go out through your fingers, and it becomes much, much easier.
Wow, that's really interesting. I don't think I've ever heard anyone put it that way before, that writing is a natural part of you. That does make sense. I'm in a long period where writing down my own thoughts is, I don't know, it's just been very hard for me. I guess it's because of a lot of different challenges I'm facing. It's part of why I started podcasting, because it's that way I can just talk it out. I like talking to people. I like having conversations. But that really makes sense, that everything you said just then, it just makes a lot of sense to me. That definitely resonated. And, I've heard so many people that have been helped by writing and staying. And another thing you spoke of is really living in the moment is kind of what you're getting at. One of my favorite inspirations is Eckhart Tolle, or Tolle, or however you say it. And the idea of living in the moment and not getting caught up in what's next or what happened before, I think is really important in people's lives.
Yeah, and that you are so right on there. And it's certainly something that I subscribe to in life. Right now, today is June 25th. It's a Thursday. Out here on the West Coast, it's 12:27, and I am so into right now this moment with you, and focusing on your words and your thoughts and your feelings, because this is all I am guaranteed. And I believe that if we become focused on giving each moment just the best of us, everything else takes care of itself. When we bring our best to a moment, then that we bring our best to the hour, we bring our best to the day, we bring our best to the week, to the month, to the year, to the life. And that's all I can keep doing, is focus on now. How do I feel? What do I think? Keep finding the best in both.
Yeah, that's a wonderful, wonderful philosophy. And it does keep people from being overwhelmed. I mean, there's a lot of things out there right now that are overwhelming everyone. And if you kind of shut that off and look at where you are at the moment, it's just gonna make it a whole lot better for you, a whole lot easier. And now I lost track of the other thought that I had. I was reading your blog about you were going to go back and you were going to read a bunch of books that inspired you when you first kind of started on this journey of inspiration, and you started to read the books and you realized that it was different for you because you were in a different place. So, and I wondered, like, what were those books that inspired you before, and maybe what are some of the things you're reading or listening to that are inspiring you now?
Well, I believe that I started to really change my thinking when I started to read after I graduated from college. I started to read everything I possibly could. I was working graveyard shift at a 7-Eleven at that time. I was having a hard time even finding a job, and graveyard shift is the 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And not a lot of customers used to come in at that time. And after I stocked the floors and the coolers, man, I had that book with me, and I started just thinking, if that person could, what makes them different than me? Why can't I? And every great man and woman and person and event I was just reading about, and I just wanted to soak that in. I wanted to soak in the struggles that they had. I wanted to soak in how they ended up overcoming that belief system, and how they found the strength and persistence and perseverance and fortitude. But some of the earliest books, I think the two earliest books that really marked changes in me was an author named Og Mandino. He had a book called The Greatest Miracle in the World. And how Og Mandino changed my life is he's helped direct my own writing style. Og Mandino in that particular book didn't give me the 10 ways that you dress for success, the 10 ways to become a millionaire, the 10 ways to have the greatest podcast in the world, the 10 ways to be rich, to have a great relationship. It wasn't about lists. I was so tired of reading lists of how to do things, man. I wanted something more, and Og Mandino showed me that you could write a story, a fictional story, and hiding within that story were these lessons, these powerful, life-changing lessons, and I'll pick and choose which ones I wanted at that time. Og Mandino's book is now it's now how I write some of my books, his style. The second book was Benjamin Franklin's Autobiography, because Benjamin Franklin had identified these virtues, these 13 virtues that he said, that's what I want in my life. I want to be more like that quality. So every month he would focus on a new virtue, and he would chart it out, think about it every day till he became that quality. And so that right there, that sparked this idea in me that personal self-accountability was everything in being able to create the human being that I wanted to become. And I identified where I wanted to go, what changes I wanted to make, and I started tracking those and working on those specifically. So that accountability system that Benjamin Franklin taught me, that self-accountability, started molding good habits within me. And then once we have good habits, good patterns are created, good things come from that. Those were the first two books. So yeah, recently this whole COVID quarantining hibernation thing, I said, hey, it sounds cool. Let's go back and reread a lot of the same books you did before,
Mhm.
and let's see how they affect you. So I started picking them all up and reading, and I found that real growth doesn't happen when we go back and repeat what we've already done. Real growth happens when we move outside our comfort zone and plant new seeds in our minds and our hearts. That's what I learned. And so then I started just picking up, and reading much more new things. And by the way, I think the greatest invention that everybody should have is just a Kindle reader. I swear, it's so fun to read. You download the books and you just go. I've got numerous books on my Kindle loaded that I read at one time.
Yes, absolutely. That is a wonderful invention. The other incredible invention, which started with tapes, is the audiobook. I was having some weird problems with dizziness and eye issues, so I couldn't read. It's one of the reasons I started a podcast, but it was so amazing to be able to listen to an audiobook and get around the kind of handicap that I had for a little bit. I'm just starting to be able to read again. My wife has just discovered Kindle, which was kind of funny. She wanted to get a book, and I said, "Well, let's try this." Yeah, it's fantastic. I was curious because sometimes you sound a little like him. Have you ever read Jack London's autobiography?
I have not, but I love Call of the Wild.
His autobiography is better than any of his novels because he lived that life. It's really something, and yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. I will definitely put that on my reading list. And you asked me what are some of the books that I'm reading now. I'm just flipping through my Kindle. I mean, I've got a combination of fiction and nonfiction that I go. I mean, here's one here. It's an interesting title. If you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. Ancient Secrets of the Fountain of Youth. The Heart of the Buddha, Running Towards Mystery, Where the Crawdad Sings. Here's a John Grisham book, The Guardians. Then I'm reading Michelle Obama's Becoming. I've always got so many books on my Kindle ready to go. And at any time, if I'm not feeling that particular book, I'm just switching over. I never believe that you got to get to the end of any particular book if you're not feeling it. Don't do that to yourself. Find what resonates with your spirit at that particular time and read it. If it's not resonating or if your mind's wandering, find something else.
I think that's a wonderful philosophy because I'm a very kind of, I don't know, studious kind of person or set in my ways. So I always feel like, well, I started this book, I got to finish it. It's only recently in my more wisdom age, now that I have more wisdom, or I'm getting older, whatever it is. So that I've decided, well, if I'm reading some stupid book, I don't need to finish it. I absolutely don't need to finish it. Really like John Grisham books for some reason. They're really well written. And that's someone who started writing just kind of for fun and ended up being one of the biggest writers of our time.
Right. I've got one of Grisham's books in my library right now that I'll be reading called The Camino Winds. And oftentimes what I do is, well, actually, I'm just scrolling here. I've got another one called The Guardians. I got two of your John Grisham books ready to go. So yeah, excellent taste, Joel.
Yeah, thank you. Right back at you. Yeah, and you also, do you know about Michael Bernard Beckwith? Have you ever listened to any of his stuff?
I do. I have certainly. This is really, really interesting. Anybody who's a really super great motivator out there that's really, kicking tail and doing great things. This is interesting, but I try to stay away from reading what they are writing because because that can be so close to what I'm potentially doing. I don't want to be a copycat. I want to be an original. I want to be more authentic. So, when I first started, I listened to, of course, I loved Ziegler and I loved Robbins and, I loved all those guys and I soaked them up because I was still such a baby and needing to feed my brain all that stuff. But, certainly some of the leaders that are out there that are the trendsetters that everybody's heard of, I won't read their stuff purposely because I want to develop and create my own stuff. Are you with me on that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally see what you mean. Yes. Yeah. It's like there's enough people hearing those ideas. You want to come up with new ideas, which is, I think that's awesome. That
Yeah,
totally
and
makes sense.
I remember one time when I was trying to get my books published, this publisher said a long time ago, many years ago, and again, it was only his opinion. He said, "Man, you sound like a young Tony Robbins." And for some reason, that didn't sit right with me because I never want to be a young Tony Robbins. I don't want to be Tony Robbins. I don't want to. I don't want to be Joel Osteen. I don't want to be Michael Beckwith. I don't want to be the male version of Oprah. I'll tell you what, man. I just want to be the best Shawn Anderson I could be. And yeah, we all are a part of every experience and person and moment that happens around us. But I never want to give up on my own authenticity and listening to my own whispers. The whispers are those gut instincts, those little urges that we feel sometimes that are planted by our own authentic self. And I think the truer that we become in following our own whispers, I think then that's when we're going to find our greatest passion that keeps us going when life gets hard. And that's where I think that we start walking the walk of our greatest purpose too.
I love that idea. Absolutely love that idea. Following your own whispers and listening to your own whispers. There's another famous author that says if he didn't write his books that he would be Stephen King says that he writes his book because that's the stuff that he dreams about and hears about. And I think, oh boy, glad he's writing.
Glad he's not my next door neighbor.
Exactly. a little creepy.
Oh
Good
my
thing
God.
He's a writer.
Glad my sister didn't marry him. I'd have to have Thanksgiving. Ooh, he's looking at me funny with that knife. Oh my
Exactly.
God.
What's going on?
I found out he named his car Christine. Oh my God. Oh my God. His dog's named Cujo. Woo.
Oh yeah, exactly. But what I was gonna ask is, do you like sometimes I feel like I'm only hearing the voice in my head and not the voice like in my heart, with the whispers that maybe I would rather be hearing. Do you have any like advice for people or techniques to tune in more to inspiration, to your own inspiration or your voice?
I'll tell you what, when I feel really dull, I go take a walk. I go take a walk. Not only do I get the motion in my legs moving, which creates the emotion in my heart and the emotion in my brain, but then I just look around me at the inspiration around me. I mean, you can look at a bird and say, there's a bird. But man, have you ever looked at a bird fly and go, man, look at how fast that dude's wings go. Wow, where's he going? What's he singing about? There's so many things in nature that can inspire us and give us the feels. If we find that we're so lost in our own head and that we're just trapped in there and these thoughts keep hitting us over and over and over, that we start to lose our love for life, you got to go give yourself the feels, man. You got to go out and you got to feel life. Take a walk, go get inspired by nature, or become a music lover, man. Music, I think for me, oh man, there's a perfect way. I'll tell you what, if I'm walking and exercising and running and listening to music, that really takes it up a whole nother notch, because then I'm feeding my heart, I'm feeding my body, and then it starts turning my brain into the thoughts that inspire me. I'm not stuck on the dull, but I'm lifted to the inspired. And so those are perfect things to combine, is music and exercise. You do that and you change your tone, you change your mood, you change your spirit, then you change your potential.
That's wonderful. I always think the same thing. I mean, when I get out and go for a walk, I look around at what's, if it's a flower or a butterfly or a dragonfly or birds, and we have a lot of all those things, or squirrels going crazy. Squirrels always look like they're having such a good time. That will, that'll take me out of almost anything. And a lot of times I look at people that are jogging with their headphones on and I think I could never do that because I want to hear the sounds around me. But what you're talking about is actually adding, that actually changes your brain when you listen to music. Walking changes your brain and listening to the music changes your brain. So combining them really makes a lot of sense. There's more and more science coming out about what music actually does in your brain, and it lights it up. And also playing music lights up your brain. So if you play music, and you're feeling down, I know personally it can help you a lot to play. And even if you're, not a musician, you just have maybe a banjo or a ukulele or something. It actually changes how your brain is working. It raises the vibration there. So I think that that's really good advice. That's a really good thing to do, to tell people. I always tell people, get out and go for a walk. And, that's kind of people might be getting tired of hearing it right now, but it's really makes a difference.
I'll give you an example. Every Thursday, in fact, this week was number 436 in a row, I write something called Inspiration Thursday. It's a weekly newsletter I put out that either it pushes someone up the mountain or pulls them up the mountain, whatever it might be. But it's designed to help inspire someone. A short little lift every Thursday. And this particular week, I was really struggling with a topic to write, and I start writing earlier in the week so I don't set myself up for failure and wake up Thursday morning and go, what am I doing? So anyway, I'm struggling. So it's Monday and it's late in the afternoon, and I'm in Northern California, and right now it's super, super hot here. We're on one of those really hot streaks, and it was like 2:15 in the afternoon, and it was literally 98 degrees out. And I just said, I'm headed out. And, I went out for a jog, and I put my iPod on because then it just helped me forget the heat a little bit, and it got me running. And I was listening to ABBA. Okay. I was listening to ABBA, and I'm a huge ABBA fan. I love them. And all of a sudden I'm listening to Dancing Queen and some of these others, and I'm feeling it, man. I'm feeling it. I'm not feeling the heat. I'm feeling my legs, and they're going great, and my speed's awesome. And I'm going, oh man, what am I going to write about this week? Oh, I know what to write about. And so that's what happened. I sparked it with moving my feet, making my heart pump, and listening to ABBA. And that's how this week I wrote my blog right there.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's the way to get inspired. And it's great that you keyed in on it, that you thought about it as you were going along. You realized the change, the idea popping into your head. That's one of the hardest things, I think, is actually catching ideas when they come. Because a lot of ideas go through my brain, and a lot of them come and go. But it's really good when we can grab them, when we can get them.
Well, here's a tip for you because I'm also in that same boat as you. So chances are you're carrying your cell phone around with you all the time, right?
Oh yeah, afraid so.
Okay. I have a running text message to myself. Okay. So even when I'm out jogging, the way that I wrote this when I was out jogging was all of a sudden I would do I did a voice translation text message to myself with all these ideas, and so then I get back in and I just transfer them over. So whenever I have a something that I go, ooh, I love that, I send myself that text message immediately. Even at nighttime, I sleep with my cell phone next to me, not to hear the phone ring, but so I can send myself a text message if I wake up in the middle of the night and go, that is a great idea. I don't want to forget about it. So send yourself messages.
That makes a lot of sense. And it also goes along with the running idea that I have to use your darn cell phone as a tool, because after all, it is a tool. It seems like it gets underutilized a lot. There's like 1,000 gadgets in your cell phone that can be extremely useful, not just the step meter. So that's a really, really good idea. And I use my cell phone for notes all the time. Back when I was doing plays, I would use it to record my dialogue and listen to that over and over. So yeah, I think that's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, so, years ago, I used to sleep with a pad and a pen just by my bed so I could wake up and write it down. So technology just makes it so I don't have to have the pad and the pen anymore, right?
Right. It just makes it even that much easier, really, which is a wonderful thing. And yeah, it's great, I think, as long as you don't think you need a new one every 10 minutes. Unless you own Apple, then buy a new one every 10 minutes.
Okay.
But listen, I know you had a schedule to keep today. I think you needed to go soon. So I wanted to start my wrap up here. First of all, you are it's ShawnAnderson.com. Is that correct?
Yes.
You have 7 books out, and you can get all of those links are on the website, plus a blog, plus inspirational messages. Also, you have links for your, if someone wants to hire you for speaking engagements there. That's all right?
It's all right there. And if anyone's interested in the whole extra mile thing that we've established across the country, I mean, 553 cities last year declared Extra Mile Day. There's extramileamerica.org. And when you look at the number of cities across America that said, yeah, we want to clap for those going the extra mile in volunteerism and service, it's pretty impressive. So ShawnAnderson.com, extramile.org.
Oh, yeah, that part is amazing. Thank you for putting that in there. I think that's an incredible organization and incredible way to inspire people. It's really great that you started that, and just, that you're inspiring people. Keep doing it. Thank you. And, thanks so much for coming on and spending some time today. Anyone listening to this, you're listening to, were you still talking? This is Joel Albrecht, and my guest today has been Shawn Anderson, and we've been talking about inspiration. So if you're inspired to share this podcast and inspire more people, yeah, please do so. Also, if there's something else, if you want to ask a question about the podcast, and for either of us, I'll get it to Shawn somehow. Leave it in the comments. And, as I always say, thank you for listening, and be good to each other.